March 1945. Deep beneath the Thuringian Forest, Dr. Klaus Reiter pressed his palm against a vibrating copper ring as alarms echoed through the bunker. A wrench on the table trembled, then hung motionless for the blink of an eye. The impossible crisis. The machine repeated the effect without power input. Allied technical teams later classified this bunker as Site 9B, noting anomalous readings between 17 and 29 kilohertz. Internal memos referenced motion irregularities, lasting fractions of a second, though most files appear partially destroyed. Reiter staggered back, breath catching as the vibration died. His assistants stared, unsure if they had imagined the wrench's stillness. The room felt charged, as though air pressure rose and fell without touching the gauges. Physics analysts reviewing fragmentary notes proposed micro-interruption of inertial transfer. No device of the era should disrupt mechanical continuity, yet scribbled equations hint at attempts far outside SS engineering doctrine. Reiter demanded another test. His hands shook as he tightened the induction coils. A pen rolled across the table, then halted mid-drift, before clattering forward again. His heartbeat spiked in terror and triumph. Sensor remnants recovered years later showed voltage surges peaking at 4,800 volts, exceeding the coil's rated tolerance by nearly 40%. Engineers called this catastrophic instability, yet tests continued. Voices from the hallway warned Allied troops were closing in. Reiter wiped sweat from his brow, insisting they activate the device once more. His assistant hesitated, fearing the machine pulled it more than motion. Interrogation transcripts reveal SS Command distrusted Reiter's project, labeling it theoretical distraction. Yet they funded it secretly, hoping any breakthrough, real or imagined, could change dwindling odds. A humming pressure swelled inside the chamber. Tools rattled. Then, for a sliver of a second, every object froze as if the room's heartbeat stopped. Reiter whispered, "I held time by its edge." Shockingly, postwar assessments noted consistent 0.22-second data gaps on captured chronographs. Analysts argued whether these represented mechanical failure or a genuine temporal interruption. The bunker lights flickered, as if reality itself stuttered. Reiter steadied himself, feeling a faint pull behind his sternum, like gravity shifting sideways. His assistant begged him to stop, insisting the machine altered more than objects. Recovered medical notes described test personnel reporting chest pressure, vertigo, and transient memory blanks lasting 2 to 4 seconds. Analysts suggested electromagnetic interference, though readings show no matching field pattern. Reiter scribbled equations frantically, hands shaking as he tried to quantify the freeze. He muttered calculations about inertial thresholds, collapsing at precise harmonic intervals. His eyes burned with feverish certainty. Fragments of his workbook later showed sketches of waveforms intersecting at impossible phase angles. Physicists reviewing them in the 1960s dismissed the math as unstable, but admitted some values matched modern resonance models. A distant explosion rattled the bunker. Dust rained from the ceiling. Reiter slammed his fist on the table, shouting they had minutes left. He swore the Allies must not seize the device before he proved its potential. Allied advance timelines confirm units reached Thuringia nearly 12 hours earlier than German command expected, compressing evacuation windows by 60%. Several SS units abandoned research sites without destroying equipment. The machine whined sharply as Reiter increased input voltage. His assistant screamed as a metal ruler froze mid-fall, suspended unnaturally, before snapping downward with violent force. The room erupted in panicked shouts. Engineering summaries describe such recoil events as temporal elasticity rebounds. Though unverified, similar descriptions appear in 3 independent witness accounts from Site 9B. The hum deepened, vibrating through bone. Reiter stepped closer, entranced, convinced he stood on the brink of rewriting physics. His assistant fled toward the exit, terrified the machine was pulling them toward its core. Psychological evaluations of captured staff indicate severe dissociation symptoms, including reports of time thinning and distorted sequencing of events. Investigators noted these accounts, but deemed them unreliable under stress. Reiter slammed the hatch shut behind his fleeing assistant and locked it, breath ragged. He believed a final test would reveal the machine's true threshold. The copper ring pulsed with a glow that seemed to breathe in sync with him. Allied sensor logs recovered decades later noted unexplained electromagnetic spikes in the region, peaking at levels 20% above what wartime generators could produce. Analysts suggested an unregistered power source inside the bunker. Reiter tightened the final coupling. A screwdriver rolled toward the edge of the table, paused mid-motion, then pivoted unnaturally, as if reacting to a force no hand controlled. His pulse hammered with manic excitement. In later tribunal documents, investigators marked similar anomalies as directional freeze vectors, though the term appeared nowhere else in physics. Some analysts argued mistranslation, others claimed deliberate obfuscation. A thunderous impact shook the bunker as artillery struck nearby. Concrete dust filled the air. Reiter barely noticed. He stared at the machine as though witnessing a creature awakening. The hum rose until it felt like a second heartbeat. Seismic records from that day reveal microtremors aligning precisely with the bunker's power fluctuations. Experts debated whether the device caused them, or merely synced with external blasts. The machine flashed white. For a fraction of a moment. No sound existed. No motion. No vibration. Reiter saw dust suspended in midair like grains trapped inside crystal. Then the world snapped back with brutal force. Captured equipment displayed data gaps lasting exactly 0.02 seconds, identical across multiple chronographs. Analysts confirmed the gaps did not align with mechanical fault patterns. Reiter staggered, dizzy, realizing he had begun losing memory fragments around each freeze. He touched his forehead, whispering that time was biting back. His hand trembled violently. Psych officers later noted his erratic recollection, describing event displacement, where sequences reversed or blurred. No other detainee displayed symptoms with comparable precision or consistency. A howl of twisting metal echoed through the chamber as a support beam buckled. Reiter steadied himself against the console, feeling the machine tug at the space around him. The air thickened, as though moments piled on top of each other. Post-capture metallurgical reports described stress signatures on recovered fragments that did not match compression or blast damage. Analysts suggested temporal shear, though the term was later struck from the archive. He activated the device again. A wrench leapt from the table, froze mid-tumble, then reappeared closer to the console without visibly moving. Reiter's scream of triumph carried the edge of madness. Review committees in 1954 flagged these reports as contaminated testimony, yet their own replication attempts produced unexplained frame-drop effects across high-speed film reels. A distant corridor collapsed, sending a shockwave through the bunker. Reiter wiped blood from his cheek without realizing when he'd been hit. His thoughts came in fragments, like pages torn from a book and shuffled. Interrogators later noted Reiter's speech jumped between moments, as though he remembered events in the wrong order. They described it as temporal discontinuity syndrome, a term never used again. The machine surged, light bent around the copper ring, warping shadows into impossible arcs. Reiter felt time fray, tugging at his awareness, as if the present were stretching thin enough to tear. Engineering panels reviewing sketches recovered on site observed angles inconsistent with Euclidean geometry. Some argued lens distortion. Others insisted the drawings matched no known optical phenomenon. Allied voices echoed through the outer hall, shouting orders as they breached the final door. Reiter reached for the activation switch, convinced he could extend the freeze. Maybe to 0.05 seconds, maybe longer. Seized notebook fragments include the line, "If motion stops, consequence stops. Only duration resists." Analysts debated its meaning but agreed the handwriting trembled violently, as if written under severe cognitive strain. The door burst inward as Allied soldiers stormed the chamber, weapons raised. Reiter slammed the switch with a trembling hand. For an instant, every man froze mid-stride. Dust hanging, boots suspended, breath held in fractured silence. Technical teams later confirmed all chronographs on site recorded identical 0.02-second voids. Investigators argued the anomaly was synchronized mechanical error, yet none could replicate the fault under controlled conditions. When motion returned, the machine collapsed inward, metal folding as if crushed by an unseen pressure. Reiter fell with it, stunned, whispering that he had touched the seam where time forgets to move. Interrogation logs reveal his final claims, that the device did not stop time, but forced it to look away. Analysts dismissed the statement as delusion, though several segments of his testimony were sealed without explanation. If wartime discoveries like this shouldn't vanish into locked files and redacted footnotes, it like so more forgotten archives rise back into the light. And remember, fragments of the machine's casing still show deformation no lab has ever reproduced.